Hi, welcome back to the Stina Show. Today we have a time change because I have work later. Woo! Today's guest is Mike Kraycik. He's an actor and an activist in SAG-AFTRA. Hey, what's up, Mom? Mike! Yes. Let's see. Bring it in here. Wow,
Hey,
Mike!
hey, that was
Yeah, it was. I took my time. I didn't press too quickly. You know what I mean?
yeah. We don't want to, override each other with,
Exactly.
I'm like, I want to talk to you so bad, and you want to talk to me.
Uh-huh.
So
How you
anyway,
doing?
yeah. Hey, it's good when, good. Yeah, it's good when technology works, right? So
Yeah, most of the time I think that's the problem. It's usually well functioning and it tricks us into thinking it's perfect, right?
exactly.
So kind of how you got Star Wars? Is that what you got? Nice. I
I
love it.
probably wouldn't have wore it, but you made that comment the other day, and I'm like, I didn't know you were all into Star Wars, so I'm like, well, I got to wear it now. So
Oh, I should have worn my Star Wars gear.
it's okay next time. So.
Next time. I'll just do a Chewbacca. Ah, no, I can't. I'm not gonna do it.
We got to be careful though, because who was that crazy guy earlier in the year, the Chewbacca guy? You don't want to be wearing like horns or anything crazy, So
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. They were, well, all those folks are wild, but that's a different conversation.
it is. But he was an actor too. I'm like, anyway. So yeah,
Was
I
he
digress.
a union member? Do we know?
No, I heard he was non-union. So like, um,
So
anyway.
yeah, you and I met it through the union, SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah, I was trying to. I think it was the 2019 SAG-AFTRA convention, right? Or it wasn't 2017.
No, it was 29. I think officially 2019, but no, it wasn't. Because
Yeah,
we didn't. Yeah.
were you at the 2017 one as well?
Yeah, I was there. You were there too?
Yeah, I've been to all of them. I probably met you,
Yes, we probably did meet, but we didn't connect on like social media till the next one.
I we might have been connected on Instagram, but yeah, anyway, but we officially met 2 years
Right.
ago.
Official, like, hi,
Yeah,
Mike, Stina, what's up? But I love
exactly.
convention. And it's election season. Happy election season to you.
Yeah, I don't know if happy, but it's always fun. Yeah. It's
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think about it, and it's like all of us, whoever's in this bucket running, we volunteer. So any way you slice it, what we have to gain is service, right? And it's like, I've been a member for like 9 years, and I think I won 2 out of the 3 I ran for. I didn't win one because I wasn't local. That's another topic. But it's like I still served. I was still on committees, and it's just a title, and you're still going to do the service. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and no, it's true, and I mean it's interesting. I get that question a lot. Like, it's kind of funny. People are like, "What do you get paid?" And I'm like, "No, this is strictly volunteer." And not trying to make a bigger deal out of it than it is. I mean,
of course.
I think, hey, if we got paid, that'd be great too. But I mean, we do it because, it's something that we're passionate about and we care about. So, and that's kind of how I got involved. I ran our local conservatory in Philadelphia
Nice.
for like 10 years, and which was quite a job because we tried to do an event at least once a month. So you have your regular board meetings. Well, I should phrase that. So I was doing that before I joined the local board, and I had several people who were like, "You really need to be on the local board."
Right. Of
So
course, if you're doing all that too.
yeah, I apologize. My phone keeps kind of like
Good.
looking like it wants to shut down, which is not good. So yeah, I eventually ran for local board, and then after a while, then I was vice president of our local, and then Helen McNutt, who was our longtime national board member, was going to step down. So people were like, hey, you would be a really good,
That's
you should
cool.
consider running for national board. So I did that a couple of years ago. So we'll see.
Well, you've been it. I mean, that's another, like you have a smaller local, so probably know more of who's around and everything.
We do and we don't. I mean, we have it's like 3,800 members.
Wow.
So we're a mid-sized local. We're actually just under the threshold for a large local. So like Chicago, Washington, D.C., San Fran, several of the other locals have 2 national board members. We only have 1. But my vote is weighted, so it's like I count like 1.78 people, in the room. So it's but you're correct. I mean, out of that 3,800 or whatever our local membership is, I mean, there's a core group of people that are working, that are involved. So yeah, we know most of them. I know most of them.
Hey, that's another one of my points. It's like whoever is actually in this knows who's been around doing the work for a long time. So it's almost like if you just do it, it works out how it should.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I've served for 12 years now. So I mean, there's been times that I've thought about, hey, I need to take a break, but thank God I'm still able to do it. My day or survival job allows me some flexibility and physically able and all that. So I'm going to do it as long as I can. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, my cat is trying to distract me, but I won't let her. But I love
it's all right. My phone's acting funny, but
oh, good. So we're both dancing with these outside.
Gotta multitask, So
yeah, that's true. Well, I'm actually better at multitasking. When you were little, did you know you wanted to do entertainment and activism?
Yeah, I think from pretty early an age, I'm an artist. I got started with drawing primarily when I was really young. I don't even know, 2-3 years old. So I've always been kind of that.
That's really young. Wow.
Yeah, right brain. And it's funny because I still tell people a story, and I put this in my application letter to grad school. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for my master's, and we had to write up I forget what they called it, but it was basically, why should we accept you? And I remember I was really young, and I saw, it was probably on one of my toys or something, like an army truck. There was a star, and I just got it in my mind that I needed to, and I was using chalk like on the driveway. So I was trying to draw the star, and I couldn't get it right. And I think my older brother and some people did you do 2 triangles inverted. That's the easy way of doing a star. Right. The harder way is to actually do the whole outline. And I remember trying to figure it out, like, okay, this line goes here and then here, and then I'd go the wrong direction. So it was kind of like, and that's the other part of me, is I like mentally challenging things. I like to learn everything I can. So that was a challenge for me, and that, I think, helped me get along the way. My father was an engineer as well, so he had to do like a lot of drafting and stuff. So I think that was part of it. But as far as entertainment, we watched a lot of movies and stuff when I was a kid. And also my dad had a Super 8 film camera.
Wow.
So we goofed around. We made our little stupid, films with my dad and my brother. And I remember making a couple, I think the airport movies were popular when I was a kid. So we did like an Airport 77 knockoff, with my friends. And so I kind of knew that I was very much drawn to TV and movies. I didn't know what direction that would go. And I mean, even today, I've worked both sides of the camera. So I actually started doing crew work before I did any acting. And I'm really into writing. I'd like to direct eventually. So it's kind of a little weird in our business because in a lot of places you're either crew or you're in front or behind the camera. So in that sense, I think of myself, and I'm not in any way comparing myself, but like you look at like Jodie Foster or Ron Howard, or folks who, they bring that acting lens, but they also have, the filmmaker in them, the storyteller. And it depends who the director is. There's directors that are totally about the lighting and the shot,
right,
and
technical, right?
Yeah, and they let the actors do their thing. Then you have other directors that are actually very hands-on, and some of them can micromanage. I know a few, but they will, okay, that felt good, but why don't you try it? You're more pissed off, or you're not pissed off, and let's do that type of take. And that's, I think, when I get to direct, and I will, I'm going to be more of that kind of bring different lenses to it, the technical, the photographer in me, because when I think of films or I watch a film, I'm like, oh, the lighting's just all wrong in that. The mood is all wrong on that, so I'm sure some DPs would get annoyed by me, some director of photographies, but anyway, yeah.
Well, that's why you have to find your crew too. If you're the lead on one of those things, you have to know who you can trust to see your vision. It's all about the vision.
Yeah, it's finding the right crew, and then also finding the right talent, right? Because I think we've all heard those stories where so-and-so was signed onto a project and they got into pre-production and table reads and just butted heads with the director and they bailed on the project, or that kind of stuff. There's also directors, as you know, that are and writers where they'll have a very loose script, like the guys enter the room and they talk about the boat and they end up fighting, and that's it. And then they just say, hey guys,
do this,
improv everything. I probably wouldn't be that freewheeling, but you also can get some, and I forget who are the directors. I think it was Kubrick and some others actually would film rehearsals and not tell the actors, like, yeah, just do whatever. And, they would film it, and some of those takes are more genuine than when the camera's rolling. So, well, like to answer your question, that was a long answer, but I think as a kid, I always knew that I would be involved in film production in some capacity.
I was going to say Aaron Sorkin. I know if you work on one of his scripts, you can't miss a period,
Yeah, Aaron, I have not, but I've read a lot about Aaron. Big fan of his films. He has a master class I just got an ad for. I might do that. But yeah, he's very meticulous writer, and very much they want to stay to script. So with his track record, I think he can do that too. So
yeah, well, it's well done, right? He's very talented.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So you went to school. You said where?
Excuse me. I inhale coffee. I did my undergraduate from a school, Kutztown University in Pennsylvania. So a smaller state school. Interesting thing, I guess, when I did my undergrad, I went for commercial art, and it was one of the higher ranked schools in the country. It's fallen back off the list a little bit, but in a way that was good. It was close to where I lived. I could commute I lived there 1 year, but also part of me would have been like, go to a Rhode Island School of Design or Pratt Institute or something like that, but no regrets. It was a really good program. And then I did my master's degree, and I just completed that a few years ago. So it's kind of later in the game, but the company I was working for gave us a fairly good amount of money a year for continuing education. And I thought, hey, that's if you're not using that, you're wasting it.
Yeah.
So it was something I always wanted to do. So I went back for that. So yeah.
Congrats. Everyone
Thank you.
wants a master's.
Thank you. I don't think I'd do it again. I mean, working full time and then also trying to act and all my SAG and other activism because I'm involved in other things. And then, trying to do a master's degree from one of the tougher schools in the world was, yeah, I had no idea until I got into it. And it was like 4 years of not, sleeping a whole lot. So yeah, it was.
Well, you did it.
Got it done. So yeah.
So what about Star Wars? I know you have some sort of history with Star Wars, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm dating myself here, but it came out, the original film. I was a kid, and it was just probably the perfect timing for a young boy, to like see that movie. It was like, wow. And what was really cool about it, and I think it lended to where I'm at now or where my mind is at, is sure, the special effects at the time were amazing. But the bigger thing is it was a really good story. I still question how much 20th Century Fox had a hand in guiding George a little bit on that original story, because it was, I still think, the best of the films and the best story. And as you know, ghostwriters always come in and you don't even know about it to help out. But yeah, it hit at the right time. It was just magical. And I was always a sci-fi guy. I mean, when I was growing up, Planet of the Apes was big, and Logan's Run, and stuff like that. But again, a really good story. It was the first film where, the tech, the future tech, even though it was set in, a long time ago, was beat up and rusty and broken, and that's how it would be. It was very realistic. I never quite bought these films like set in the future where people marveled at the technology. Well, we don't do that. I don't pick up my iPhone and be like, oh, because it happens slowly, and you kind of get used to it. I mean, when I think of an iPhone compared to my old flip phone or the rotary dial phone when I was a kid, it is pretty amazing, but it happens slowly that, I don't go out and look at my car, or I'm trying to think of other technology, Wi-Fi, and be like, oh, wow, I'm so amazed by Wi-Fi every morning, And that was one of the things that made Star Wars pretty just phenomenal, was like the robots break, and the guy, you have to hit the land speeder to get it to work, or whatever. So yeah, it was a big Star Wars guy. I think, again, influenced who I was growing up, who I am. I did a lot of I didn't want to wait like 3 years till the next film, so I did, being an artist, I did a lot of comic strips, comic books, my own stories, like what happens to Luke after the Death Star blows up in the first movie, what happens to Darth Vader. So that, I think, helped me as a storyteller. It was really cool when some of the stuff I came up with actually found its way into films, and I obviously wasn't ripped off when I was 12 years old, but I think you're out there and you kind of can kind of foresee where things might be headed. But so that was cool.
So you drew the comics as well?
I drew the comics and wrote the stories. Yeah. So it's and sorry, my phone keeps acting funny here.
No, go ahead.
It keeps wanting to go into like sleep mode, so I want to keep seeing you. So, but yeah, so I wrote my own stories, and I think that helped develop my love for writing and storytelling and stuff like that.
So how long have you been a SAG-AFTRA member?
I joined in 2007. So whatever that is, 14, 15 years.
Nice.
Yeah. So I worked on a film, one of M. Night Shyamalan's films. Yeah, called The Happening. So that's an interesting
You know,
story.
he's my favorite right now. He's become my favorite for sure.
Yeah, I'm self-admittedly a fanboy. I mean, I love Knight, especially that he's from around here, which is cool, you know. And he's very loyal to Philly. Tries to film here if at all possible, and has the same crew comes back for every film. And so I worked crew on the film Lady in the Water in 2005, which was cool. And I happened to mention to a few of the guys that I liked acting. And a couple years later with The Happening, I inquired about crew work, and they said, we're not sure, you know, we got on that film, it was Warner Bros. Or no, The Happening was 20th Century Fox. So they said, there's a lot of California people they want to bring in. So somebody said to me, you know, have you thought about, you know, submitting any of your stuff for acting? And I was kind of like, yeah, right. You know, I did some school stuff, and it's like, you know, then I'm going to get hired on a big Hollywood production. And I submitted my stuff and had an audition, didn't get the role, but I did background, and, you know, got to join SAG-AFTRA. So that was something, you know, a lifelong dream that I didn't think,
Oh,
years ago, I thought of moving to LA, and I didn't. I decided to stay near Philly, and it's kind of like I didn't think working in Philly I would get to join SAG-AFTRA, you know, maybe going up to New York for sure, but you know, so that was kind of interesting. So
and now there's probably filming there all the time, right?
you know, it comes in spurts. We have a pretty good, you know, I would say a moderate film tax incentive in Pennsylvania. So we get a fair amount of good projects. Of course, the pandemic slowed things down or shut things down for a while. And it's kind of a sore topic here in Philly because Pittsburgh is a big production hub. So what happens is we have the state incentives. You can use them anywhere in the state, right? So Pittsburgh, and I'm gonna get a little not political, but explain within 300 miles of New York, you're in what's called the 300-mile rule. Includes Boston, DC, Philly. So background is unionized. On top of that, some of the sister unions, the cost of filming in like Philadelphia, New York is higher than in Pittsburgh. And they have wonderful, you know, very seasoned crew out there as well. So, and facilities. So, I don't know percentage wise, but a lot of productions in Pennsylvania go to Pittsburgh, you know, so that kind of gets the ire up here in Philadelphia a little bit. But I always tell people, because I'm pretty involved with Pennsylvania Film Industry Association, which is the lobbyist group, you know, getting those tax incentives to happen. And I tell people, like, look, are we going to lose some jobs to Pittsburgh? Absolutely. But if we have no tax incentives, we don't get anything.
Right.
They're going to Georgia, or they're going to New York, or
Atlanta, right.
You know, yeah, New Orleans. I mean, I think it's like 28 or 29 states in the country have pretty robust film tax incentives. So I'm like, would you rather work on 3 or 4 productions a year or none? You know, so, you know, kind of is what it is. We've been working on, and I'd like to do this, you know, if I get reelected and continue more, is trying to work with our local government in Philadelphia and the surrounding regions to maybe improve our local incentives. Because that's the thing, like, you know, a hotel in Pittsburgh, you might be able to get it for a production in a group rate. You know, maybe they can get it for $60 a night. Where in Philadelphia, it's $120. So over the course of a 2 or 3 or 4 month shoot, that can save you a lot of money. So that's the kind of thing we're working with local government to try to, you know, see what we can do locally to help that. So, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the producer's bottom line, right? So
yeah. I mean, if you can save a buck on a production, you're gonna do it. rightfully so. I mean, I don't waste money on any of my personal stuff either. So, argumentatively, I mean, some people might say, "What did you, paying airfare or something?" But
Right. I'm going to jump around, but I ask my guests to bring a deep quote and or enlightenment experience if you have one to share.
yeah, and thanks. I thought about it, and I'm going to sound like the fanboy again, but I probably have a number of quotes and things that have really inspired me over the years. I'd say over the last 20 years, and since I got to know M. Night, or Night as he goes by, he did a TV commercial. God, it was around the Sixth Sense, probably 15 years ago. And he said, after the commercial goes through, I think it was for a credit card. At the end, he said, it's make time to dream. And to me, that resonated, not so much because it's M. Night, because just as an artist and all those things we talked about before, and like most of us, we're not A-listers. We can't do 2 films a year and make enough money that, we're living comfortably, paying all the bills. So I think most of us have day jobs or have survival jobs or hustle, gig workers. We're doing a lot of different stuff to get by so that we can do what we love. Some in probably 10 years. I haven't written really much of anything in probably 5 years. Now, some of that had to do with grad school, but you just get wrapped up in other stuff. So I actually have it printed out somewhere. I couldn't find it. I made a sign to remind myself, like, make time to dream. And to me, what that means to me is take time. I feel my artistic talents were a gift. Depending who or what you believe in, maybe it's a random chance, that I tend to be more right-brained, and that's typically creative. Like, I can come up with story ideas, I have 1,000 ideas right now. It's a matter of getting them on paper, right? But like talking to my brothers, a couple years ago, we went on a trip and we were just BSing, and it came up somehow, and my brothers were like, I couldn't come up with a story if you forced me to, And I'm like, I can't not come up with a story. If I hear something about technology, whatever, some new breakthrough in AI or something, my mind goes into, wow, that would kind of be a cool concept for a movie or a novel. But taking that kind of thing and then building a good story around it, with good, interesting characters and good dialogue, because that's the critical piece. A lot of people have concepts, so that's that. And there's other people who have said similar things or other quotes similar to that, but to me, it's just a good. And again, I used to have the sign hanging up. I took it down in one of my cleaning binges, but it's to me, it needs to be like a daily kick in the ass to say, hey, one of my writing professors, because I took some courses at the University of Arts in Philly in the late 90s, early 2000s, he said, you have to write every day.
Right.
And you may agree with that or may not. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm completely.
I've heard that from a lot of writers. It's true. Yeah.
I think some people need that for discipline, right? Like, just to keep at it. I think some of us need it as like an inspiration. Like, if you don't make an effort to write every day, and it might end up being once a week, but the next thing you know, it's like me. It's like 10 years since I finished my last feature screenplay. Right. And I'm like, yeah, at my age, I can't be waiting 10 years between, between writing scripts, or doing projects. So, yeah.
I like that you chose M. Night. I met him once and had a small conversation with him, and he's very deep. And I met him after a screening of the movie Split. Oh, yeah. I love that movie, right?
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And you were featured in one of those, right? As a union member?
Yeah, I worked on, I was kind of bummed because years ago, the first movie in that trilogy, Unbreakable, filmed around the region, and they had a mass background day at Franklin Field, where the stadium in the movie, where Bruce Willis was a security guard.
Yes.
And they had a casting call, and I turned it down. I was like, I don't want to go down. So I wish I had, because I ended up working on Split and Glass, and I could have been like, I worked on all three of them. But yeah, Split, I was a security guard at the Philadelphia Zoo. My part got cut, but
wow, that's cool though.
As always, just I'm not going to turn down any day on set. It was great experience.
Right.
And then in Glass, I was and it's kind of funny, actually, a mental patient we filmed at the old Allentown State Hospital in Allentown, which ended up being the Ravenhill Memorial Hospital in the film. So it was branded as an asylum outside of Philadelphia when it was really up in Allentown. But that was an experience. That was a real creepy location. Just you could feel like, I didn't see any ghosts or anything, but you can just feel like a lot of history there, and a lot of probably troubled history. I asked some of the camera guys and stuff, like I said, because they were there for 2 months, like, did you see anything weird? And I didn't hear any stories, but it was pretty interesting. So
I know this episode is like Mike and M. Night Shyamalan, but the reason why I keep bringing him up, because I believe he's like one of the deeper folks in culture right now. He aims for depth, he doesn't skirt around going deeper with the tones and the energy. He must bring that deep energy to a set, from what it sounds like.
He's an intense guy. And yeah, I think he's Indian American, so he's an American citizen, but was born in, I think, Pondicherry. His folks are from India, and I think that spirituality from India really resonates. He's a deep guy. I haven't had a ton of discussions with him on like getting deep like that, but stuff I've read in interviews. And just looking at his subject matter, his scripts. You look at like Signs. It's often about faith and redemption, which I think are, from being in the biz, we talk about, when you write a screenplay, you want to have that action story that keeps people's attention. You want to have the emotional story, the journey that the protagonist and or the supporting characters go through. And sometimes it's the antagonist as well. Maybe they change. But having those deep themes, without being in your face. Some films do that. Like, this is specifically about the environment, and you're kind of putting it in my face. That might be a little annoying, but some of the better writers or filmmakers will do that. They'll weave their themes and their beliefs. And, with M. Night, I think spirituality is probably a really big one in his films. So yeah, me personally, they resonate. They get you thinking. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes a good popcorn Michael Bay blow everything up for 2.5 hours film is really good too. But I like films that make you think, or that really, really hit you, kind of emotionally. So yeah.
Yeah. So make time to dream, right?
Yes, or make time to write or paint or whatever it is, because dreaming could be a little misconstrued. There'd be people like, oh, I have a dream. I want to be a doctor or something. And that's valid. But to me personally, it's make time to be an artist. Make time to use that, whatever that gift is you have, that you like to paint, or you like to write, or you do photography or anything like that. Make time to do it, So, because there's a lot of people, when I was in art school at Kutztown, there were a lot of people who were in my program that and we talked about it a lot, like who kind of wanted to be artists. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, aspiring to want to do something else. But there were some people that were in it for the wrong reason. You know, they wanted to make money, or they just wanted to perpetuate a kind of a vibe, like, hey, I want to dress all in black clothing, you know, and label myself as an artist. And, you know, so I think it's almost like a calling, I think, to some people. And I think if that is your calling, if that's what you've been blessed with, I mean, I think it's something you really got to kind of take advantage of, you know, so.
Yeah, and I've been on the books professional for like 15 plus years, and you lose your way, but when you find yourself again, you always find yourself wanting to do the same through line, right? Like that is your through line. You might stray with distraction, but it always falls back on the art.
Totally. I mean, you know, and that's also cliche, and I forget who said it, but like, to thine own self be true. I mean, there's a lot of validity to that. And actually and I'll stop talking about Night, but that was one of the core themes in Unbreakable, the original movie. Is David Dunn, Bruce Willis's character was sad and depressed, and it was manifesting itself in problems with his wife, with Robin Wright. You know, he was sad, and Samuel L. Jackson, who was brilliant in that film, got it out of him. Like, you have this talent, this ability to kind of read people's minds and like super intuition. And if you're not using that, you know, it's almost like it's a sin, you know. And through that film, which had a lot of action, there were a lot of cool things, but it was more of a journey of a troubled person kind of finding their way, finding who they are, you know. So anyway.
No, I love those. Like you and I have that Star Wars and M. Night straight up in common, and I'm glad we discovered that, because we didn't know that before this interview. That's cool.
And Star Wars was a little more straight up. I mean, you're probably familiar with like Joseph Campbell and the hero with 1,000 faces.
Yeah, I have that over here somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. So the hero's journey. I mean, so Lucas, for that one, I mean, it's pretty much straight up. I mean, if you follow the steps of the hero's journey, he followed it exactly. So in some ways, that was maybe a little bit more of a simplistic story, more of almost like a fairy tale. But I mean, yeah, it worked phenomenally, I think. So, yeah.
Hero's journey, yeah. So what about music? You play music?
Not really. I think I mentioned that to you. I could have. I mean, I probably could have. When I was a kid, I took organ lessons. So when I was younger, you know, it was really around the advent of like keyboards, synthesizers and stuff. But my family, we had an organ, and you know, the other option was a piano. But I think my mom had like grandiose visions of me playing the organ in the church on Sunday, you know.
Right.
So I took keyboard or organ lessons for a couple of years, which, you know, pretty much meant piano as well, because I could play piano and keyboards. And then I just kind of got away from it. You know, I mean, it was cool. I dug it. I also I had a couple of guitars. I had an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar, which I think at that age, it was probably more about like, hey, I want to make some noise and annoy the neighbors, you know, with my amp. And then, but I really wanted to play drums. And I remember when I was in grade school, you could try out for the band, and they did the tests or whatever. And I remember the band guy saying, you know, you don't have any rhythm, you know, you wouldn't make a very good drummer. And I was like, baloney.
Yeah.
So I think that turned me off a little bit for music, but it was okay. I mean, between, you know, the drawing and painting and all that, and then kind of the comic books and writing, I probably didn't have time for everything else. It's
right. You have to choose at some point, right?
You do. Kind of like playing golf, you know, you really got to work at it if you're going to be even halfway decent. So, you know. But
So, so you're a photographer as well?
yeah. So I do photography. I mean, purely amateur at this point. And again, that got started, probably from my dad. He had his movie camera. We had, a couple of still cameras. And I got my first 35 millimeter. I was pretty young, I don't know, like 8 or 10 years old. And was on like the high school and junior high yearbook staff, photographer, and all that. But when it comes to that, my biggest subjects, I guess, I like nature photography. I also like photography. Like I've done like a number of time exposures of like, right now we have the Perseid meteor shower going on, so that's kind of cool. Comet, I think it was Hale-Bopp back in '96. I did some pretty cool time exposures with that. So yeah, it's just, it's something else I like to do when I make time, when I make time to dream. So yeah.
Well, I like how you go back to that quote, because making time, like you can maybe make time as well, like create it in a way. We don't know, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother deep level.
Spin, right?
What's the, and I'm kind of like, I say I'm a weird guy, but I mean, I've also been called like a Renaissance guy, or like a very interesting guy, because like I have a lot of diverse interests, like physics, quantum physics and stuff like that really intrigues me. So they're learning more and more about, among other things, dimensions and stuff, but also like time and space. So to your point, yeah, it makes, by having the right thoughts, positive thoughts, and we're not sure what we can change. It seems like some days you have more time than others. Does it just seem that way or not? I don't know.
What is time? One of the biggest questions of time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of folks that even physicists that believe it's essentially an illusion, kind of created by the physical aspects of our world, of our dimension with gravity, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes that much. I don't think I can add like 395 days to the calendar, but it probably gets back to your mindset is really big. I mean, it's with anything, if you look at any situation with a positive lens versus a negative lens, I mean, it just totally changes how things go, and I'm not always good about that, but I'm trying. So,
Well, we live in a very physical world. I think so one way to buy time is taking care of like the physical aspects. I mean, spiritually, you can probably buy time by meditating and slowing down your thoughts, but physically, it's like eating right and exercising right. There are ways to play with time instead of wasting it away, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I look at both my parents died pretty young. My mom from lung cancer, and most likely, I mean, from smoking. My father passed away from a heart attack. That probably didn't help. But that's when you look at things like, you're absolutely right, like lifestyle and choices we make. I mean, I think like if they had an extra 10 or 15 years even, or 30 years, like what can you do in that space in your life in that time frame? So I think that's a good lesson to all of us and again, I'm not always good about it myself. My diet tends to be like, I'll be really good for 6 months and then I'll be really bad for 2 months, so.
Well, balance is important. And I think that's also part of the physical. It's like if you're not balancing, you'll binge, and that's just physics, right? It's simple physics.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, and it's the choices we make. I mean, you can make whatever choices you want. It just might come back
right.
to, or it might not. I mean, you always hear about, the 108-year-old grandmother that,
smoked every day,
packs a day and drank, half a pint of
How
tea.
does that happen?
But that's an anomaly. That's not that often. So, especially as I get older, I'm thinking, like, okay, I really need to get the ship turned in the right direction, you know. And I've been pretty good about it. I mean, I've worked out for like 40 years, so I mean, that my kind of tough thing is the diet. Sometimes, you know, it's like, ooh, that whole pizza at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah.
I had pizza yesterday. I'm not it's but then you have a salad the next day. So that's a time again. It's like, what is time? Like
Wait, you're
when
saying
does
I
this?
had a salad? I probably didn't, but
No, you need to have a salad.
no, I didn't. I'm joking.
Well, my thing is like, how do these choices, when does it affect us? As you said, right? Like this 100-year-old person, like do our choices hit? That you'll never know, but like the karma portion of it too, right? It's like, oh, if I cut this person off and I know what I'm doing, when is that going to affect me later? Well, we don't know, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's kind of the crapshoot of life. Like, you never know.
Right.
Like, say if you're a heavy drinker, it's like, when could you have stopped that it made a difference?
Right.
And it's
Right.
probably one day. We'll never know. But it's like, hey, if you would have stopped your heavy drinking in March of last year, you would have lived to your 100. But because you kept doing it into April and May and last summer, you know, that person ends up having a problem when they're, you know, 60 years old. So we
And
never.
and that's about like quitting, I guess, something like a vice. It's never too late to change, which is cool. That's also like a well-known thing. It's like you have the opportunity now today to change, and it can help. It can help, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, a good example of that is my uncle. My dad, you know, my dad passed away young, but his brother quit smoking. I don't even know. My uncle Ron is 75. Old hippie guy. You would probably like him. He actually, funny story there. He had actually tickets to the Woodstock concert. I actually had tickets, and they were on their way up to New York, and they heard it was such a nightmare on the radio that they turned around and came home. And I'm like, how could you miss like the event of your generation? You know? He's like, well, you got to understand, at the time we didn't know it was a concert, and they said it was an absolute nightmare, you know, with the rain and people were getting stuck and stuff. So, but he quit smoking probably 20 or 25 years ago now, and knock on wood, he's still going strong, you know. And that's the thing. He might have thought at that time, it's too late. I smoked for 40 years or whatever, 50 years.
Good for him.
Yeah. And you never know. And that's the thing. Like, had my father done that, you know, maybe he would have been around for a while. But, you know, we never know. It's never, you're right. It's never too late to change. So.
Right. If you're here consciously thinking, I think you have the choice to move forward in whatever road you would like to.
Totally.
To do
Totally.
that.
Yep.
And remember, we have to get lost to get found, right? So who knows? We know nothing. We know nothing.
You have to go through the night to have the dawn. I mean, that's cliche, but it's absolutely true. And that's a whole nother deep spiritual thing. I mean, like in our life, you have to have the challenging times to appreciate the good times. So that's also something I try to do. Like when something goes wrong, you just try to say, hey, this is necessary. It's gonna, when I come out on the other side, it's gonna help me be a better person, or, you know, or something.
Right. If we're lucky to come out the other side, that's like gratitude in itself.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Blessings. So how do you stay motivated? Speaking of motivation and moving forward.
Coffee.
I love coffee.
Now, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. That's a little bit of a curveball I wasn't expecting. I mean, I think there's a couple kind of motivations. I mean, I think one is we got to do what we got to do, right? You got to pay the bills, you know, things have to keep moving forward. So you kind of have to go through those things. As far as motivation for things that I'm passionate about, again, and I alluded to it earlier, I mean, me personally, I believe whatever talents, whatever attributes, and we all have them, you know, we all have things that we're good at, things we're not good at. I believe those are a gift. Now, again, I'm not quite personally sure if it's from some dude sitting up in the clouds.
You're right,
Saying,
right.
Mike Kraycik, we're going to make you an artist, or the universe, or whatever, or even just completely random. But I tend to think it's maybe totally random. Is your cat doing
Yeah,
something?
you know. Wait, hold on. Let me let her out. Let me. Oh, look. Go ahead, babe. Thank you. There we go. You saw her? She needed to get out.
She's heard enough about M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And
So,
now I forgot where my train of
you're,
thought.
um, you were saying, she very
Oh,
much
how to stay
distracted.
motivated.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So again, that's just kind of where I'm at. Like,
Well, you said you work out. That's cool. That's a good
oh yeah, yeah. I
motivation.
mean, that's something I've just always done. I don't know. It's weird. Weird's probably not the right term. I mean, to me, I've done it so long. If I don't work out, and I'm not talking about a day, but I mean, if you're not feeling well and you go a week or whatever, or you just have a lot going on, like I'll admit, during my time in grad school, there were a lot of days that I was on the computer from 6 in the morning till midnight or later, that I didn't get to work out, and it's not so much a guilt thing, but it's like, to me, it compounds itself, because if you don't work out, you feel more tired, and then because you feel tired, you don't want to work out. So I've known folks over the years, girlfriends and stuff, that have like started to work out maybe for a couple of days, and they're like, oh, I'm sore, I'm going to take a break, or I'm really tired. And I'm like, no, that's the time when you need to keep doing it, because once you get over that hump, then it'll get to the point where it's routine, and you're like, then it's the opposite. If you don't do it, you're like, I just feel really lethargic. I don't feel like doing anything. So, yeah, so working out helps for sure, along with, like I said, just to me, and it's kind of weird, but to me, when I think of the term like sin, I think of, like, if you have a talent or something you like to do, you don't have to be good at it, something you like to do or something you're passionate about. Again, I feel that's a gift, and if you're not doing it, it's kind of a sin, because there's other people that would really, really like to be able to do what you do. Again, even if it's not about being good, like, to me, I don't think being a good artist or being a successful actor or whatever, I mean, if it's something you're passionate about, there's a ton of people I meet all the time who have no passions at all. They just don't really care about doing much of anything, and I think that's a shame. So those of us that do have a passion, I think we have a responsibility and obligation to ourselves to do that, to use it, to make time for that. So
Yeah, because you don't create the passion, it's in you. I mean, from my experience, whatever passion's flowing through me, it's just in you.
I think that's a fair statement. Yeah. I mean, I think probably there are people that go down a certain path because maybe their parents wanted them to, or something, and it develops, that passion develops. But I think for a lot of us, for a lot of people, you're passionate about something. That's the other thing, I mean, I always thought, like, if I ever won an award and I had to give a speech, my parents were very encouraging. Like, I like to do art, and they were like, go for it. And not only go for it, but you need to do this. They were not like, that's nice, you can do that, but we want you to be a doctor or whatever. There were a few times my dad told me I needed to go in the military, but that's a whole other story. But that's probably when I was like partying too much or doing something stupid. But yeah, so
You got through it. That's good.
absolutely, absolutely.
So we have a few minutes. So you want to maybe say some goal projects you have, or to wrap it up, say whatever.
Gold projects in what sense? Something I'm working on, or?
Yeah, what you want to work on, or.
Yeah, well, I would say probably where I'm trying to kick myself in the butt here is maybe once the election season is over here, right, and we have a little chance to breathe.
A few weeks. You're almost there.
Yeah, and I mean, the majority of the voting in our union takes place within the first couple of weeks, so we're probably about there anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I have several writing projects that have been kind of lingering, that have been kind of festering, that I really really need to get back to. So one is kind of sort of a historical drama, and then several sci-fi projects, which again, that's kind of my go-to. I think we live in such an amazing time with technology advancements. Like Black Mirror is a great show, right? Because
I love that
we have
show.
all these amazing things that are happening, all these technology advancements that are compounding. It's getting faster and faster. What the computer, what it was capable of last week is 1,000 times faster and more capable than it was a year ago, that sort of thing. With that though comes a lot of moral dilemmas and a lot of just maybe things that could go wrong. You think of AI, you think of like Battlestar Galactica was another one of my favorites, right? Or the Terminator. Like, I forget who it was, Stephen Hawking or was it Steve Jobs, one of them, warned against AI. Like, you really got to watch how much you develop, because it's not going to take it long for systems to figure out like humans are a problem on this planet, so
Right.
the stuff like that kind of gets noodling in my brain and starts thinking about especially the moral choices and pitfalls or mistakes we can make as things advance faster and faster. Like, that might sound like a good idea to automate that stuff, but did we really think through all of the repercussions of what might happen with that, or if it goes awry or something like that? So
Of
yes,
course not.
that's
No.
yeah. So
No,
that's
we create for convenience, but yeah, that's cool. So
well,
you're gonna write, you're gonna make time to write, huh?
I'm gonna make time to write. So when I see you the next time and you're like, Mike, how's that project coming along, or those projects? And I say, well, Stina, I've been really busy with work, and we had all those SAG meetings, and you can just give me a little smack or something, and
I'll give it to you now. And just do it. I mean, you like to go in that mindset, so it's just about sitting down and starting with a 5-minute block, right? I think you have to start small.
totally, absolutely. So yeah, so that's
That's great. I'm happy to hear your visions, because that's where it starts. And thank you for coming on.
Thank
Happy
you for
election
having me. This has been
season.
great. Yeah, I've been a big fan of the show for as long as
Thanks,
you've been
Mike.
doing it. Yeah, so
Oh, well, I'm happy to have you. And yeah, let me know when you have your next project. And hopefully I'll see you at convention. Either way, I'll see you on social media.
yeah, we were uncontested in Philly for a convention, so I'm a convention delegate. I'm keeping my fingers
Oh,
crossed. Yeah,
congratulations.
yeah. So hopefully I'll get to see you at convention in
Yes.
October. I know in New York you guys have a lot more candidates, so
Yeah.
pulling my
Thank you. We
pulling out
got
all
this.
stops.
We got this.
You do. You'll be fine. So awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for coming. Shout out to M. Night Shyamalan.
And thank you for your service.
Oh, please.
Stina, as some of you may
Thank
not
you.
know, is in the Navy,
I
so
am.
we appreciate your service. So
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate yours in the union and otherwise. Thank you.
awesome. All right, I will talk to you soon.
Okay, take care. Thanks,
All
Mike.
right, see ya.
Bye. All right. Thank you for tuning in. The last portion was really deep. I love that. And I like how M. Night Shyamalan got us there. Thank you for watching. Hi, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Margaret, Jenny, Lee. Nice. Got a lot of good folks in here. See you next week. Sorry it's so early. And I hope all is well. Take care of yourselves.